international papers time now then. Elena's with us here on set. Back to the crises again, I'm afraid. They're sort of all over the front papers, different bits of the world.
Into the danger zone, the euro crisis spins out of control. That's your front page here at The Guardian. Now, what's actually interesting about their article is that it focuses on supposedly secret talks that the paper says are going on in Brussels between French and German representatives about the idea of fragmenting the eurozone completely, pushing all of those periphery countries out and creating a much smaller, much more tightly unified union consisting really of just France and Germany, those core countries around there, which would then have a shared tax and fiscal policy. Now, the existence of these secret talks, The Guardian says, has been denied by both Paris and Berlin, but the paper says they have it on good authority that they are happening. They are preparing for this smaller, much more unified eurozone ahead.
It'll be intriguing to see if that happens, wouldn't it? The role of the European Central Bank also being increasingly controversial for the papers.
Well, it's under fire in the New York Times. They reckon that one of the main causes of this is the refusal of the European Central Bank to act unilaterally and decisively. Basically, they're wedded to the idea, or rather the paper says the bankers are wedded to the idea that it was created to keep inflation down, so they refuse to lower interest rates or do anything that would help growth while most of Europe's economies are shrinking. They say the really important thing that's happened recently, the really important departure, isn't Papandreou's or Berlusconi's, it's actually Jean-Claude Trichet's, and the man who can do the most to help pull Europe out of this crisis now is his replacement, the Italian who's now the central bank governor, Mario Draghi. They reckon he can do more than Sarkozy or Merkel or anyone to pull Europe out of this crisis if he decides to lower interest rates, print some money and change the way the European Central Bank operates.
Elena's going to take us to Greece now. Still, of course, no Prime Minister. What are the papers saying about that one?
Well, end this chaos. That's the headline on the front page of Keti Merini. They say, look at this front page, that they are just fed up. They say after hundreds of hours of discussions, hundreds of hours of deliberations by Papandreou, 4 days of talks, we still don't know who is going to be the next Prime Minister of Greece. They say there's just too much uncertainty. They don't care who it is now, as long as it's someone who will help pull all these different parties together and make Greece less of a laughingstock on the international stage, they say.
Let's look at something completely different now. Got a story from Mexico.
This is a report made by Human Rights Watch, the NGO, which has been published today in La Jornada, the Mexican left-wing newspaper. Now, the Human Rights Watch say they've got proof the Mexican police and army have been involved in at least 24 murders, 39 disappearances and 170 cases of torture since President Calderón launched a big offensive to take on drug traffickers with a big military offensive in late 2006. Now, this has been going around in rumours in Mexico for a long time. That offensive has become very unpopular because so many people have died and there's very little influence that the traffickers are making any difference. Sorry, the army is making any difference. A lot of soldiers, of course, have changed sides because there's so much corruption, and they're now some of the traffickers' worst enforcers. It's been widely believed in Mexico for a long time that police corruption was such that they were involved in murdering and disappearing people. But this is the first time we've got proof from a foreign NGO who say they found evidence of it.
Going to go to Britain. Students taking part in a big demonstration yesterday in London.
An overwhelming show of force quells fees protest. That's the headline here in The Independent. If we have a look at their photo, they've got almost more police than students in that picture there, and they're complaining that the Metropolitan Police is cracking down too hard. They say they authorised the use of rubber bullets yesterday, even though they weren't used, and tried to threaten potential protesters to keep them off the streets.
And our culture presenter here at France 24, Eve Jackson, would be very proud of you now because you've got a bit of culture for us.
We've got some opera, so
Opera.
high culture for you there, Stuart. This is Julian Assange, the opera. It's already been turned into a play. It was also an autobiography that you might remember I told you about. It was disowned by Assange himself. And now Opera Australia are turning the story into an opera. The tenor playing him says the story's got everything. It's got heroes and villains and both in one, in fact. So they're hoping it gets younger people into the opera.
I'm intrigued to hear the first song. It'll come, it'll come. All right, Elena, thanks very much, Elena, with the international papers here on France 24.